Good day, Aqua friends. Sorry for the quality of the video. I am on vacation and the only way I could really record was in a shady place. So I know that the coloring is off, but with all that considering, I still wanted to get a video out for you guys. Starting wet on wet, we are going to do this beautiful forest, misty sort of forest in the background there. And it's like an autumny sort of feel because the trees are just starting to turn with some very pretty oranges and yellows amongst the trees there. Very subtle, but I just really loved this reference photo from Pixabay. So as you can see, I am using very watered down colors and I am adding in some burnt sienna where I see a little bit of reddish browns. I'm adding in some iso yellow deep and quinacridone gold where there are some lighter yellowy areas. And sepia is what I used for the foggy parts in the background. I also used some different browns, like Van Dyke brown. The green that I'm using now is called shadow green. It makes a really nice color for the distant trees. So while it's still wet, as you can see, I continue dropping in all these different colors. Those background trees look a little bit like a sepia, really like a dark grayish brown. And then as the trees come more into the foreground, that is when I'm picking up these different greens. There's so many different greens in here, so I'm mixing some of my sepia and browns, even mixing some of my yellows with the greens, and just having this variety of color. I also used hooker's green for a little bit of pop of color, because you know me, I do love to have a lot of saturation in my paintings. So I'm lightly sketching in these mid-tones here, the greens in the middle of the foreground. Coming in with more darker greens in that foreground of trees. I also used some sap green, olive green, sort of whatever greens I had in my arsenal, and like these warm colors. This was a lot of fun to do. It's very relaxing. And if you guys are getting value out of my videos, think about subscribing and hitting the notification button so you don't miss any videos. I do post every Tuesday. And I do try to get out a very fast 15-minute project on Fridays called Fast and Fun Projects. So I'm trying to race with the sun here. As you can see, I'm getting some sunspots on that left-hand side. Unfortunately, I couldn't bring all my lights to the beach, so I had to do with what I had. So I'm back home and back in my art studio, so I'll have proper lighting for my next projects. So letting that dry, this is a really good foundation to work on. So notice I did work a long time getting in all these shapes and different colors on that first layer. So coming in with our second layer, I am using a little bit more paint with my water so that the paint in that middle ground stands out more. And when I'm making these trees, notice I'll start off with very crisp lines for the top of the trees, and then I water it down. and kind of make it sort of blend in with the background. I think that's a nice effect, having soft and hard edges. It's very eye-catching. And notice in the background, all of those trees have soft edges. All those wet on wet, I didn't go over that. They have a misty feel to it. I'm adding some definition in that middle ground, but the trees in the foreground, I'm adding some more brighter colors. I do love those pops of the yellow. I used ISO Yellow Deep. The paints that I use are Holbein, and the brushes, most of the brushes that I use are the Black Velvet series. I'm using a size 8 round. Putting in some more yellow tones. The color I'm using now is quinacridone gold, and it's a very pretty fall yellow color. And I am adding in those mid-tone trees. Working on those foreground trees. So I kind of went over with a lighter green and a very watered down version. Now I'm coming in with darker colors. Okay, and they will sort of bleed into the wet spots that I already made, and it'll have a really nice effect. So see how I start off with definition and then I kind of blurred things towards the end. I love the different textures that you could do, going from, you know, those hard edges to those soft edges. I just think it looks really pretty. So really building up the foreground now. See, I use watery mixture. Sort of bleeds in with the hard edges a little bit. And notice I'm mixing in those browns to get these different variations of green. It's really important because the reference photo does have a lot of really pretty warmer colors, and all these trees are quite different looking as far as colors go. It looks more natural. You don't want to just use one green, and it would be a very flat, non-dimensional painting in that case. So even if you don't have a lot of different greens in your arsenal, you know, mix in some yellows, mix in a tiny bit of orange or red, because those are contrasting colors. You will get a darker green. So all in all, this is not a bad project, not including drying time. It was about an hour's worth of painting. I have obviously sped up the video, but making all these little hashtaggy marks and changing your colors constantly, it takes a little bit longer, but the results are, I think, turned out fairly well. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think so far. Now this third layer, I am just adding a few more trees in the foreground, adding a few more of these darker trees. And I'm also keeping things a lot more crisper with my lines. Wanting a few more pops of color, I am adding in some more yellow to that mid-ground. So that is it. Sign your painting and you're done. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and I'll see you next week.